Hello, future leaders, current leaders, former leaders. Welcome to Thank You for Understanding, where old souls meet young ambition and servant leadership isn't just a buzzword, it's a way of life. I'm your host, and whether you're building your first startup, leading your first team, or just trying to figure out how to live in this world, you're in the right place. This is where we dive deep into the messy, beautiful journey of developing leadership through a humanistic lens. We're talking about leadership that actually serves people, not just profits. Every episode, we're exploring what it means to rise, not just climb ladders, but elevate everyone around you, because your next highest potential is not just about you. It's about the ripple effect you create for others. So here's the thing. Your highest potential isn't a destination, it's an evolution, and it's time to step into yours. So let's rise. Hey, we're back, and we are going to continue that conversation talking about Gen Z. And I can talk about Gen Z because I am part of the Gen Z generation. We're going to talk about the downfalls and the strengths of this generation. And you know what? All generations have their good and bad traits. And what do we need to do? We need to focus on the strengths. We need to really capitalize on those strengths. And anything that's maybe a downfall, are there ways to make those downfalls strengths? So let's jump in. Leadership for Creatives, how Gen Z's avoidance culture is killing creative collaboration. Yeah, we said it. Avoidance culture is real. The end. That's the end of this podcast. I am sure some of you were like, what? I'm sure some of you are like, what is avoidance culture? I highly recommend you go look up what avoidance culture is if you're not quite sure what it means. But this is not the end of the podcast. This is not the end of the blog post. But what is stating a problem if you cannot help offer solutions? So let's help out our fellow Gen Zers. The creative industry thrives on collaboration, feedback, and constructive criticism, y'all. Artistic endeavors have some of the hardest constructive criticism than any other industry, which means you gotta have thick skin. But I'm watching a generation of talented creatives sabotage their own potential with 3 toxic behaviors that are becoming an epidemic in our workspace: conflict avoidance, feedback resistance, and accountability allergies. As someone who works with storytellers and creative professionals daily, I have seen how these patterns are not just personal quirks. They're leadership killers that destroy creative teams from the inside out. The creative collaboration crisis, why let's just move on, is destroying creative teams. That's kind of like, it's not that deep. Let's just move on. Is the same as it's not that deep for the workplace. So in a creative work, tension is not the enemy. A lot of people think tension, conflict, that's the enemy. No. Tension is where innovation happens. So when a director gives notes on your script, or gives notes to an actor, or when a producer questions your entire vision, when a collaborator challenges your approach, magical things can happen, because that is the open door for conversation, to understand both sides, to understand perspective. But only if you can sit with the discomfort long enough to mine that gold. Embrace those awkward moments of silence where everyone is staring at each other, waiting for something, someone, a dog, to come running into the meeting room. We have all had those moments. I promise you, if you've not had one of those moments yet, you will have one of those moments. Someone says something in a meeting, everyone looks at each other, they stare. No one has any idea what to say next. It's awkward, it's tense. So what do? You embrace it. You let it be there. You breathe through it. But instead of that, I'm seeing so many creatives, and not just people in creative endeavors, but so many professionals shut down at the sign of creative friction. Let's just move on has become the new it's not that deep. Another way to avoid the messy, uncomfortable work of creative growth. Yeah, so let's just move on is not a lesson you want to take from Gen Z. And now I'm not talking about something that's disrespectful and comments that are completely unnecessary. Yeah, that might be a moment in which you say, that's disrespectful, let's move on. Right, we're going to avoid, political conversations. We're going to avoid some of those things that don't need to be had in the workplace because it's not appropriate, right? So there's a difference. I'm talking about different things here. I'm talking about a creative moment in which people are having creative collaboration and then gets a little tense because people are disagreeing on the creative ideas. Here's the thing, y'all. There's no right or wrong in creative ideas. There's one that's maybe more effective and there's one that's less effective in accordance with and coordination with the goal and the mission and the ROI and the KPIs of whatever that said messaging is. So obviously if we're in a room and we're, creative team in a corporate setting and we're trying to put together a brand new campaign that's going to launch for rebranding. I mean, it's a whole thing. It's a multi-million-dollar project. It's 3 years in the making. We are going to have some creative collaboration. But if someone offers something that, may not have the return just based on, someone throws something out there and it's like, yeah, let's talk about Cheetos. And you're like, what? We're a roofing company. Okay, let's see, is there a way that we combine little afternoon snackies with a roofing company to execute a brand new campaign? Where's the audience at? What's the message? So you never just shut it and be like, that's not gonna work. That happens that doesn't work. No, can it be integrated? I mean, it's kind of coming out of left field, but you don't just shut someone's ideas down, because what happens when you just shut down people's ideas? They stop offering them. Ooh. And that's never what you want to do in a creative collaboration. So went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but y'all know what I'm saying. The truth is that the feedback phobia is stunting creative growth. Gen Z creatives are arriving in professional spaces with an unprecedented fear of feedback. They've been raised in an environment where criticism was filtered through participation trophies and safe spaces, creating a generation that equates constructive feedback with personal attack. Mic drop. That's probably one of the most profound things I will say / write in one of my posts here, because it's the truth. Everyone gets a trophy is not how it works, right? There is constructive feedback. Tell the truth with compassion. Ooh, telling the truth, it may be a little constructive. It's constructive feedback. No one is saying you're wrong. It's constructive feedback, and they're saying it with compassion. Because guess what? They have probably been in the same place you were in at one point in their artistic careers. Probably were. And so they're just offering some guidance to you so that, you know what, you don't make the same mistakes that they did. Brilliant, right? And those creatives and those professionals that are so willing to help like that and prepare young professionals and young leaders in the workplace and in their artistic endeavors by helping them not make the same exact mistakes that they did, that's compassion, man. That's kindness. Here's the brutal truth. If you can't handle feedback on your creative work, you will not be growing as an artist. You just won't. The best creatives I know are feedback addicts. They crave tension, the pushback, and the challenge to go deeper. Someone gives them constructive feedback and they say, amazing, this is an open door for me to get even better at my craft. Of course, you need to be aware of who you're taking constructive feedback from, right? I mean, that's part of the conversation. Who are you taking feedback from? So can you really, truly, actually handle the truth? You can't handle the truth is a quote from blank movie. I really, really hope you can get this one. Go ahead and guess. Put it in the comments. Let me know. Send me a DM. What movie is that from? The accountability allergy in creative spaces. So when my creative process becomes an excuse for unprofessionalism. Oof. I've heard it lots of times. It's just my creative process. Used as justification for missing deadlines, delivering subpar work, and treating collaborators disrespectfully. Your creative process does not exempt you from basic professionalism and respect for others' time and energy. Real creative leadership means being disciplined to honor your commitments while staying true to your artistic vision. It means recognizing that your creative process exists within a larger ecosystem of other people's creative processes. Which means you gotta get out of your own head and get out of your own self and realize that the work you do as an artist really is selfless. What's the point of sharing art? Any type of art. If you can't answer that question for yourself, then you need to do a little bit of work. A little bit of work. The difference between artistic integrity and stubborn selfishness. There's a fine line between protecting your artistic vision and being impossible to work with. You know, as an actor and a producer, I've worked with some pretty impossible people. You wouldn't believe it. You'd be like, really? Really, you're the star of this film and you're acting like that? You're talking to people like that? You're treating people like that? Yeah, because something happens. So, how do you avoid that? We're talking about avoidance culture, and I'm saying how to avoid being an impossible person to work with. Compassion, respect, care, treat others the way you would want to be treated. That type of thing. Everything you need to know you learned in kindergarten. Say please and thank you. Hold the door open for someone. Smile. I mean, just such simple things. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science to be like, ooh, that person's impossible to work with. But you don't ever want that label, by the way. But there's no like, well, how do I be possible to work with? No, that's you just be a good human. And what does being a good human mean? It means being respectful, being compassionate, being kind, smiling, holding the door open for people, saying please and thank you. All those things you learned in kindergarten. It's that simple. Artistic integrity means fighting for the elements that truly matter to your creative vision while being flexible on everything else. Stubborn selfishness means digging into your heels in every single note, feedback, or suggestion. You start taking things personally. It's not a personal attack. Constructive feedback from trusted sources is not a personal attack. They're trying to help you. They're trying to help your growth as an artist. Again, we have to be careful about who we take constructive feedback from, right? So that's step one. Who am I taking this constructive feedback from? Okay. That is constructive feedback. They are trying to help me. It's not a personal attack on me. They're trying to help me grow as an artist and as a human being. Amazing. That's a doorway into growth. So the most successful creatives I know have learned to pick their battles wisely. They know when to stand firm and when to collaborate, when to push back and when to adapt. And that's knowing your values. That's knowing your core values. That's humility, really. Humility is knowing your place and sticking to it. So they're humble. They know when they should push back and they know when they shouldn't push back. And I like to think that I'm about at that place too, but we're all a work in progress. We're all growing. So how do you build creative leadership skills? How to give feedback and receive creative feedback like a professional. When you give feedback, start with what's working before addressing what isn't. Like those compliment sandwiches. Always start with what is working. Then you lean into, how can we make some things better? Be specific about the impact, not just your personal preference. Like, oh, well, I think that. No. Let's be specific about what you're doing and how it's applying to the overall goal. Frame suggestions as questions. Hey, what if we try to move this over there and then that would help with X, Y, and Z rather than you should move that over there. No, 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 no. Frame it as a question because that's an open door for collaboration. Focus on the work, not on the person creating it. So like you are, because you're right-handed and you're less creative, I think that you should do it. No, no, no. That's a personal attack. That's not constructive feedback. Constructive feedback is, hey, maybe we should, would you be interested in trying something? What do you think about when you receive feedback? Listen without defending or explaining. That happens so often. Oh my gosh, especially us Gen Zers. When someone gives us constructive feedback, we say, well, I did it like this because I thought it was... No, you don't need to defend it. Just listen, right? The pros know when they need to push back. Ask clarifying questions to understand the deeper concern. Thank people for taking the time to engage with your work. Oh my gosh, whenever someone takes the time to help you grow as an artist, please thank them. Please say thank you so much for your feedback. I really appreciate you paying attention to what I'm doing, right? If someone's giving you constructive feedback, again, we have to be careful about who we're taking feedback from. That means that they took the time to look at your work. That's good. Separate your worth as a person from your work as an artist. Guys, I could go on a tangent about this. Separating your worth as a person from your work as an artist. Let that linger for a moment. I could get into a conversation about how productivity and self-worth is a huge problem that's going on right now, especially in the United States. People think that the more productive they are, the more things they do, the more worthy they are, the better self-worth they have. Guys, those are not correlated. Your self-worth has to come from within. I would invite you to do some work on that and to reflect on that. If you need some resources, pop over to the rest of my podcast and the rest of my blog posts to see what self-worth truly is. So the art of creative conflict resolution. Creative conflict is not personal, it's professional. When two artists have different visions, it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's about finding the best and most effective solution for the project. That requires separating ego from artistry. You gotta throw the ego out the door, guys. Your creative choices are not extensions of your identity. They're tools in service of the larger creative vision. Practice collaborative problem solving. Instead of defending your position, get curious about the other person's perspective. What are they seeing that you're not seeing? Find a third option. Often the best creative solutions come from synthesizing different viewpoints rather than choosing between them. So how can you combine those two ideas and to make an even greater, more effective idea? Is it possible? It's only possible if you're open-minded to it. And it's possible when you're listening to what the other person has to offer. Their creative leadership mindset shift from protecting my vision to serving the story. The most powerful shift a creative can make is moving from protecting their individual vision to serving the larger story or project. This does not mean compromising your artistic integrity. It simply means recognizing that your creative contribution is part of something bigger. When you lead with service rather than self-protection, you create space for other creatives to contribute their best work too. You become a creative leader who elevates the entire project, not just your piece of it. It's not about you, it's about the whole. Building creative resilience through vulnerability. The strongest creative leaders I know are not the ones who get hurt by criticism. They're the ones who feel the sting and then they keep creating anyways. They've learned that vulnerability is a creative superpower, not a weakness, and they understand humility, knowing your place and sticking to it. This means that you're willing to share work before it's perfect, because there's no such thing as perfect. Admit when you're stuck or struggling, ask for help without feeling like a failure, taking creative risks that may not pay off in the way you thought. But when you show up, and you do your best, and you prepare as much as you can, that is the greatest payoff you'll ever get, knowing that you tried your best. Because we cannot be attached to outcomes or results. The next generation of creative leaders. That's us, people. Moving beyond comfort zone creativity, Gen Z has incredible creative potential. Yes, we do. But that potential is being strangled by comfort zone thinking. Or fear of critical feedback. Real creative leadership requires you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, with feedback, with conflict, with failure, with growth. The creatives who will thrive in the next decade are those who can navigate creative tension with grace, who can collaborate without losing their voice, and who can lead projects that bring out the best in everyone involved. That's your goal as a leader. You're serving other people. You're a humanistic leader. You're a servant leader. You're helping other people achieve their next highest potential so that the entire project and the entire team can be reaching their next best. So what the industry needs from young creative leaders like you and me, the creative industry is desperate for leaders who can give honest feedback without destroying confidence, which means telling the truth with compassion, receive criticism without shutting down or getting defensive, navigate creative differences with maturity and professionalism, build inclusive creative environments where everyone can contribute, balance artistic vision with professional responsibility, and be kind. I said kind, not nice. There's a difference there. So your creative leadership challenge, the next time you're in a creative situation that makes you feel uncomfortable, there's tension, there's pressure, whether it's receiving feedback, giving input, or navigating creative conflict, resist the urge to avoid, dismiss, or deflect, or defend. Instead, ask yourself, what is this discomfort trying to teach me about my craft? How can I use this tension to make the world better, make the work better? What would it look like to lean into this challenge rather than run away from it? And how can I serve the larger creative vision while staying true to my artistic voice? So how can I be grounded in my core values as a human, my core values as an artist, and then help serve the next highest best, the next highest potential of this entire project? If you need a few more resources, you can get our morning leadership checklist to help you navigate this new journey specifically for you. Our generation, Gen Z, has the power to redefine what creative leadership looks like. So let's make sure that definition includes the courage to grow, the wisdom to collaborate, and the strength to face creative challenges head on. The stories we write, the films we make, art, and projects that will shape our culture are waiting for leaders brave enough to create them. The question is, will you be one of them? Check out our upcoming productions, yes, our feature films that are currently in production that have just been released on Amazon and Tubi, and other artistic endeavors. Let's rise together. Thank you for understanding. Catch us at nanimedia.com for all the good stuff into leadership, and until next time, keep rising.